We have a very difficult passage from Matthew, one that seems most difficult for us Americans to hear. How do we see a relationship between the two? Is there common ground between the Hebrew Bible and the New Testament? Is there a similarity between the God presented by the Israelites and the God shown by the newly emerging people of the way in the Gospels, the book of Acts, the letters of Paul, Peter, James, John, and us? Angry words and blood were shed in the early days of Christianity by people who believed that there were two different gods presented in the Hebrew Bible, our Old Testament, and the New Testament. And there are still some today who believe that God is not the same God presented in these two sections of the Bible. God of the Old Testament is vengeful and carries out great atrocities, whereas the God of the New Testament is only about love. Therefore, the two cannot be the same God. We need to be careful about this, my sisters and brothers. What is really different about the two presentations of God? It really boils down to the understandings of the people at the time, doesn't it? One group was very tribal, and so there was warfare and violence. So unlike today. So of course, one wanted God to be on their side. Need I remind us of the old hymn, "On Your Christian Soldiers"? Their God had to be mightier than the gods that were part of the groups outside of the Jewish understanding. If they were the chosen ones, then their God had to be more powerful than the idols the others worshiped. With all the different empires that had controlled their lives, the Israelites hoped for release by a Messiah who would come and rescue them this time from the Roman oppression. When Jesus came and did not fulfill this expectation of a mighty warrior, but preached and taught about loving God as well as all people who live in their neighborhoods, this was very difficult to accept. Then this very popular Jewish rabbi suffered death by the Roman authorities with that terrible mode of punishment, the cross. The followers of Jesus continued to promote love and equality and service to others. They did not forget the teachings of Jesus. God was still the same God, however. Jesus made that perfectly clear. It is how we react to God that is important. It is only through our tales of this divine human relationship that separate us from a clear connection. Let's look at the reading from the book of Exodus, along with Matthew's Gospel. Our Israelites trudge and tramp through the dusty wilderness after having escaped Egypt. Their complaints against Moses have already begun when they encounter a water supply at Marah that was too bitter to drink. The Lord provides a way for Moses to sweeten the water, and everyone is happy. The Lord makes a deal with these Israelites that if they listen carefully to the voice of the Lord your God and do what is right in His sight and give heed to His commandments and keep all His statutes, I will not bring upon you any of the diseases that I brought upon the Egyptians. Remember all those nasty plagues? For I am the Lord who heals you. Then the oasis in Elim that had 12 springs of water and 70 palm trees, a true wonderful break from the journey thus far, greets them. What joy, what relief. The Lord is carrying out His deal with us. The journey continues and they find themselves in the wilderness of sin between Elim and Sinai. And please understand that this place does not mean sinfulness. It is a Semitic name for a moon deity called Sin, one that dates to pre-Islamic Arabia, the Levant, and Mesopotamia. It has taken the Israelites 15 days and they are not happy. Their irritability has greatly increased at this point. They rail against Moses and the Lord about their situation. Oh, how they long for the good days in Egypt, where they could sit by the flesh pots and eat their fill of bread. They are heading to an unknown world, leaving the only one with which they had been familiar. Are they really saying that living in slavery is better than this freedom march? Of course not. They are tired, afraid, and nervous about what lies ahead of them. No Google search to help them at all. They are immigrants or aliens as referred to in the Bible. The Lord hears these complaints and gives Moses a solution. At twilight you shall eat meat, and in the morning you shall have your fill of bread. Then you shall know that I am the Lord your God. So the quails appeared, and when the dew lifts off the ground, fine flaky substances, fine as frost on the ground, has appeared. Manna from above, like coriander seed, white, and the taste of it was like wafers made with honey. Not bad. They are taken care of, although more days of complaints were heard for a bit, and certain people didn't follow the rules, so worms made the manna foul. But eventually, they learned what to do and how to follow the Lord, and they survived for 40 years in the wilderness by eating this amazing substance until the habitable land in Canaan was reached. The Lord took care of them, these immigrants, and they learned to take care of each other. We jump forward to the days of the new Israelites, the disciples and followers of Jesus. They too roamed the dusty roads all through the region of Judea beyond the Jordan. They did not just travel in their own groups, however. Large crowds followed Jesus, and he cured them there. They encountered grumblings and problems with the Pharisees, who continued to test Jesus with tricky questions about divorce and such. Then little children were brought to him in order that he might lay his hands on them and pray. His disciples complained about that, but Jesus taught them better. The young wealthy man, wanting to be a follower, could not give up his flesh pots and fill of good bread, so he went away grieving, for he had many possessions. We see how difficult a picture Jesus is painting for the disciples, so much so that Peter asks, "What else can we do? We have given up everything to follow you." And here begins, the first will be last, and the last will be first. We have that landowner who went out early in the morning to hire laborers to his vineyard. Doesn't this sound like the work crews of immigrants or day laborers who are in the valley? We know that if you live in an area where there are undocumented workers, immigrants, aliens in the land, there will be people eagerly waiting for work to do. Some things do not change. So this landowner gets the first crew gathered with agreed to wages for the day. At 9 a.m. he goes back, and he still sees some people standing idle in the marketplace. Why haven't they already been hired, since obviously the crops were ready, those grapes were just coming? Then at noon, at 3 and 5, there are still people waiting for work. And the question is finally asked, why are you standing here idle all day? They said to him, because no one has hired us. All this work available, why weren't they chosen? Doesn't make sense. Wouldn't it have made more sense that all the needed workers were snapped up at one time so the work could get done? Why these dribs and drabs all through the day? And what is this deal about the latecomers getting the same wages as the one who started early in the morning? Where is the justice, the fairness in all of this? That familiar grumbling that we humans, be we Israelites or Christians, then begins. These last work only 1 hour, and you have made them equal to us, to have borne the burden of the day and the scorching heat. We can understand their frustration, can't we? Our comfort zone has been terribly disrupted. Our comparative balance sheet is not looking good at this point. And how do you think the people then reacted to the landowner's final comments? "Friend, I am doing you no wrong. Did you not agree with me for the usual daily wage?" "Yes, but take what belongs to you and go." "But I worked so many more hours than this chump who just showed up out of nowhere. I choose to give to this last the same as I give to you." "I know, but it just isn't fair. Am I not allowed to do what I choose with what belongs to me?" "Well, sure, but or are you envious? Because I am so generous." What? Before that piece can really sink in, then Jesus delivers that really difficult punchline. So the last will be first, and the first will be last. Again, What? Wait a minute. Jesus isn't talking about literal things here, is he? This isn't just about day laborers. Is this about community again? If I have been a lifelong Episcopalian, I shouldn't cringe when someone who enters the sanctuary for the first time is totally welcomed to join the community, and I'm still stuck with washing the dishes for the potluck. If I have been at St. Whatever for 40 years, and suddenly there seems to be so many new faces that I do not know, why am I threatened by this? My arms need to open wide to embrace these new persons and feel joyous that there are more places to be set at the table, be it food table or altar table. Rabbi Jonathan Sacks, in his book, The Dignity of Difference, writes, "There are times when God meets us in the face of a stranger. The global age has turned our world into a society of strangers. That should not be a threat to our identity, but a call to a moral and spiritual generosity more demanding than we had sometimes supposed it to be. Our love for our neighbors is not spandex that tightens as we are asked to give. It is elastic that allows us to expand and go beyond what limits there are. Did the Israelites receive the help they sought at the wilderness of sin? Yes, to the tune of 40-year survival until they reached their promised land. Did the laborers receive the promised wages that would help with the needs of the day? Yes, and they all learned the crucial lesson about God's love, that the last will be first and the first will be last. God's unconditional love is equally given to those baptized as infants and to someone in his or her 80s or 90s who suddenly decides to be baptized. To those who have always been in attendance at church, or to that stranger who has just entered the door for the first time. To those who have their faith, and to those who are discouraged or struggle in faith. Out of our abundance, may we share the goodness that our blessed God provides. May we continue to serve Christ as we serve others in God's name. Let us pray. From Stephen Shakespeare. Generous God, whose gift defies the balance sheet of ownership and just reward, free our hearts and minds from the envy which enslaves us. Shape our lives to show your self-forgiving love through Jesus Christ, the free gift of grace. Amen.